Who got justice? Kangana's political career got launched. She got justice. Robin Hood Pandey, the Bihar police guy, was almost going to get his seat. He tried his best, and Sushant was a chip that he used that unfortunately flopped. Fair enough. Look at Arnab's personal net worth of 1,000 crores. I'm not saying this. Republic's website has this out. I wonder how much it would have become in the last 6 months. So everybody got justice except Sushant's genuine fans. They need to understand that.
Hi, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I have to introduce our guest over here. Akash sir is, by his bio, a satirist, but I would like to say that he is a great political analyst, and rightly so, in a sphere which is saturated with a lot of noise and very few people who actually educate us with knowledge. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure. And yes, there is a lot of noise. And the idea is to use satire to cut a little bit of that noise and have conversations, really.
Thank you so much, sir. This conversation was intended to sort of analyze my experience, and I wanted a person's take on it, especially with your experience in the traditional space, as well as you having an idea of how media channels work and how they want to present news. I wanted to say that it's usually been a particular sort of framework that I follow when it comes to videos. So when it comes to movies, I do my due diligence in doing as much research as I can. But when it comes to especially news that covers the entertainment industry, I always find myself to be at loggerheads with people who don't agree with the particular channel that I might be focusing on. Differing opinions have been the most whenever I've covered news, traditional news, covering the entertainment industry. So I just wanted to tell you that especially with the unfortunate news that happened in June, and which has been sort of how news has sort of transformed over the months have gone by, I went from a person who thought that it was responsible the moment it happened that I do a discussion with a counseling psychologist and an outsider who has experience on how the entertainment industry is. And
True.
then what I realized, what happened immediately was that I was considered to be irresponsible for assuming that it's a simple case. While I didn't specifically say how it happened, what happened, I thought it would be educational to at least get this perspective about mental health and a perspective of a person who's come from outside. Now, what happened was that me as a normal viewer is consuming content constantly, and that was a period in which I haven't seen the news that much ever in my life.
Okay.
And over a period of time, the more news that I was consuming and the more individual messages that I was getting, that it was irresponsible of me to just make a sort of blasé video according to them. Uh, I was in such conflict to what to do or what is responsible. So I wanted to first ask you, sir, the from June onwards, the way you saw it progress, could you see through it, most of it?
Okay. So let's, now that we're trying to dissect this, you know so much about Bollywood, right? So when a guy is trying to rip off a story, when he's trying to fake a script, you are able to immediately catch it. How? Because you've been consuming so much of it. You know the international media, you know the Indian, you're able to, put 5 different clips and make a thread and theme. Is because you've consumed so much of Bollywood, you know about cinema, you're able to catch it much quicker than maybe an Akash would, or maybe somebody else would. In the same way, I have been consuming media since I was in class 8. I wanted to become an anchor since class 8. I became an anchor quite immediately after college, 2 years of radio when I was doing my master's, and I've done 10 years of television. Then I've done 5 years of radio, and I have tracked media for God knows how many years, too many years for my own good. So the biggest surprise for me was when my subscribers, a little bit of cohort, the cohort that you have,
Yes,
you
sir.
would have some people who would always watch you, and then people from outside.
Yeah.
That Deshbhakt is a political satire platform. We take on the administration, we take on the government, is because satire is punching up.
Yes.
So we get a lot of abuses. Would you want to take a wild guess? What is our most hated episode? It has got nothing to do with politics. It has got nothing to do with the prime minister. We dared to make an episode 2 months. 2 months. Remember, we out of respect, we did not do anything, although we knew it from day one. After 2 months, we did an episode mocking news channels.
I remember that.
They are ये कर दो, वो कर दो, and in the end I said, चाय वाले के पास जा, टपरी पे जा, वो टपरी पे जो डिस्कशन हो रहा है ना, वो बता के आ, शाम को उसी पे न्यूज चलाएंगे. That resulted in a 82 या 85% like. हमारा like ratio is about 90, 97, 98.
Yes, sir.
The maximum number of abuse came in that. It was not even a political episode. What does that show? That even our regular watchers who know television, who know news, say, Akash, this time you have crossed the limit. Arnab is doing good. For a change, Arnab is doing good. I'm like, dude, you don't even know this man. I have worked with him. He does good for only his bank balance, which is about a 1,000 crore net worth at this point of time. Do you honestly think that news channels suddenly will change their colors and start working for somebody's justice? I mean, you really have to be very naive or a genuine fan of Sushant. My understanding of the situation is that, yes, it was a very tragic passing away. And this is how it flew. It was a very tragic passing away. People were really upset. And then some people saw the opportunity. Why? Because there was, of course, the Bihar connection, the Bihar election. There was, of course, a mysterious death of Disha Salian. Any normal person, including you and me, would say, boss, manager, 2 people, back to back, kuch to garbad hai, and then feeding the frenzy. Now, I, unfortunately, was part of the whole Arushi Talwar case. If you remember, it was a way back ago. But the kind of media frenzy that was there when Arushi was murdered. We can say murdered, by the way. Why? Because she was murdered. At least that was a murder mystery. There was somebody who had killed Arushi. The question was who. In this case, nothing was established. But yet look, and this is a fabulous understanding of human psychology, that how people were then told, no, this is not clear. Autopsies were conducted in news stations, and then conspiracy theories were built. Who's who, whose sister, father, uncle, then who's the friend, then some mysterious friends came into being, and then, of course, drug mafia, etc., and then it became attacking Bollywood. Yeah. Which I also made an episode called Charsi Bollywood, which I'm very clear about this. If you see if you see international authoritarian regimes also, it is discrediting of institutions. So from a JNU, from intellectuals, from award vapsi, to students, to tukde gangs, to students and activists and lawyers, Bollywood, huge force if it comes together, that is. And what if these guys actually wake up one day? This is a perfect opportunity. Let's dissect and kill their credibility. So then it ended towards ending their credibility. That is when somehow, surprisingly, Bollywood has woken up and then taken action and filed a civil suit. Yeah. But what is amazing, and it is fabulous, for 4 months, and even now you have people who would believe that this is all a conspiracy, this is all a cover-up. And I'm finding it hard to believe now that genuine Sushant fans are still not being able to see it. Yeah. I believe that genuine Sushant fans have now started to see it.
So I'm so intriguing that I had a similar experience of being a skeptic initially of most of what I consumed from Republic. And this was the time where I was getting a majority perspective of this finally seems like he is doing something credible and for the people. So this perspective and this warped sense of this person's now credible for this case specifically got me into self-reflecting and thinking maybe we are channeling our energy towards something pure, something that is not catered towards, numbers and TRP. But the more I saw it getting prolonged, especially, sir, which I'll tell you my experience was, the inaccuracies or the skepticism I had from interviews, or just the lapses that were happening, or just the 50, 60 people that were being interrogated initially, I thought that it was getting prolonged for a period of time where I wasn't seeing any progress. That was my perspective. And I still don't fault myself for asking for a CBI probe. I said that, clarity and justice is something that any Sushant fan or a neutral viewer would want. So if this is the solution that an independent body comes in and finds out for themselves, I would respect whatever their decision is. But the moment, sir, this was the turning point for me, when the CBI probe was announced, I was like, okay, it's done. But it carried on and on and on. And sir, it wasn't what the core issue was anymore.
No.
So that's where I feel, where everyone started to believe that the ulterior motive is something else completely then.
So look at this flow. Okay, before we start, slamming news channels, let's slam ourselves a little bit also.
Yes.
There was a point where only some channels were carrying the Sushant episode, conspiracy, propaganda, whatever. The irony is what happened. And because I know television and I know friends who are in television and they express their helplessness privately, what happened is, beyond a certain point of time, this story started picking up so much that the TRP ratings went off the roof. Now, okay, we can of course go ahead and debate whether TRP matter kya karta, etc., and whether it's rigged or not. But the thing is that it caught people's fancy. So the irony of this entire situation is, maybe in the first 2 months, the media hype was not as much than the next 2 months. So they were able to get into the minds of people, get people talking. Also, remember, Sushant also had a lot of women, girls and women as fans who were not regular TV watchers. They don't know these tricks. They thought this is a genuine inquiry that is going on. So they didn't know all these tricks of TRP that is played. So I think that was one. B, it became very, very clear that I also thought that CBI inquiry ho gayi, ab mamla shant ho jayega. But the intention was never the CBI inquiry. The intention was to get at Penguin, political persons involved in this case, Maharashtra police being involved in this case. So the idea was to hammer the state government and, of course, try to get some brownie points. I don't know if that brownie point in Bihar is working at all or not, but the attempt was definitely there to get that brownie point in Bihar. So one has to understand is that news channels will not do anything unless and until it is benefiting them. In this case, it was a gift that kept giving. Why? There is nepotism in Bollywood. There is corruption in Bollywood. Of course, there is drug abuse in Bollywood. Every movie industry has a problem of drug abuse. But all of this was given on a platter to television channels, and people love. Unfortunately, people, and you and I will have to admit to it, that this sort of scandal sells.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Even without a murder. 100%. Even without a murder. And then you had the perfect victim. A girl who gave drugs. And there you have the perfect narrative. So if you ask me if this was a perfect movie plot, it was. We all wanted. Listen, we are all lynch mobbers. We want somebody to toast or roast. This is a very famous guy told me a long time ago that Tinseltown especially is a city, is an industry that loves to toast and loves to roast. We all needed somebody to roast, and we found a perfect victim in Riya Chakrabarti. And that is what gave this another month plus of spin when you found a victim. And people are convinced. Chetan Bhagat, one may disagree with him. I disagree a lot with him, but he said a very nice thing in the interview. Usually in India, justice doesn't happen. Or if justice happens, the wheels of justice take so long to turn. In Sushant's case, justice was happening. Wheels of justice, due to our pressure, was really moving fast. Justice was being done. Investigation was being done. So what's the problem? The problem is now people want justice that they want. Mera wala justice chahiye. Tumhara wala nahi chahiye. So AIMS, you screw yourself. Oh, CBI, you haven't found anything. CBI corrupt. Yeah. Now the slogan is CBI, jawab do. AIMS, let's get an investigation done again. We want
So
our justice.
then the faith for every single body goes away. Then if you're going to doubt anything because it doesn't suit what your conceived notion of the entire thing is, then you will never be satisfied with whatever conclusion comes. So I also felt that I was irresponsible as a creator of jumping the gun to create a piece, one, from the information that I had, and I hate to admit it, but also because of the magnitude of requests also that I was getting. I wanted to know, sir, what is the due diligence you do in being responsible in reporting something which is ongoing, which has multiple perspectives?
Anmol, you're amazingly talented. I see your stuff. It is excellently researched. The fact that you're even contemplating and saying this out loud, that listen, there might have been a little bit of misunderstanding or jumping the gun, is appreciable, because people don't do that also today. Um, could you have done something separately, given the kind of brainwashing that was going on, given the kind of pressure that you would have faced? I can understand that, because I faced the other way, the backlash. So I can understand the kind of pro pressure you would have faced. Isko banao aur banao batao, especially because you deal in those subjects. I am only going to tell you is that the only difference I have, or edge I have over you, it's definitely not talent. The only edge I have over you is that I have a little bit more years of experience of
Yes, sir.
seeing the kind of muck that there is. Just like you are able to see through people and see through some of the Bollywood studios and see through some of the rotten scripts, I am able to see some of the rotten scripts and the rotten people who are there sitting in media. And I know for sure, I can bet my life on something, they are not going to go out of their way for a cause. Their only cause is money and TRP. And this was a perfect case. Even in Harushi, and I was a reporter at that point of time, the case may have stretched for about 2 months. And there was a murder. 4 months. This case has stretched on for 4 months. We're talking after 4 months, and even now people would, what? You're going to put this on air and you think people are not going to abuse you? Of course they're going to abuse you.
Of course.
A, you're talking to Deshbhakt first and foremost, that.
Yeah.
B, you're talking about this issue. So you're going to get abused for that. But I would only say is that whenever you make an episode, just look at the cold hard facts. And I think what you did was not wrong, actually. You had put questions. Of course, there was insinuating something,
Yes, yeah.
but you had put unanswered questions. Where you are not wrong, let me tell you, and where Bollywood was wrong. What if Bollywood had come together as one and bashed everybody at the word go? Then this whole situation would not have developed.
Never.
Silence is equal to guilt in this country. Maybe not legally, but morally. I think Riya Chakrabarti also made a mistake. She gave an interview to Rajdeep Sardesai much later in the day. If she had come out, I don't know what these lawyers tell them, because they are looking at the legal aspect, etc.
Yeah.
Well, legally she's out, but her reputation is gone.
Yeah.
So my only point to you is that, A, if somebody throws keychad at you, and somebody seriously, I mean, if it is actually not trolls, if it is actually damaging your reputation, speak out then, speak out soon, speak out firmly.
Yeah.
And B, do your due diligence. I and you will all go wrong at some point of time. Aisa nahi hai ki, nobody will go wrong. And you got emotionally drawn into such a big case. This is once in 15, 20 years sort of a case. This won't happen soon. And I hope the people, what you need to tell your audience as well, are you wiser? Because one quick point I'd like to made an episode on this. Who got justice? Kangana's political career got launched. She got justice. Robin Hood Pandey, the Bihar police guy, was almost going to get his seat. He tried his best, and Sushant was a chip that he used that unfortunately flopped. Fair enough. Look at Arnab's personal net worth of 1,000 crores. I'm not saying this. Republic's website has this out. I wonder how much it would have become in the last 6 months. So everybody got justice except Sushant's genuine fans. They need to understand that.
So also what I experienced from the coverage and even covering it myself was that the moment you appreciate someone's efforts for a particular topic, you become the person who is advertising that person for everything else. So what happened was that regarding the CBI for SSR movement, I was like, for this specific case, I admire the relentless journalism that Arnab Goswami has been doing. Now, whatever Arnab Goswami does after this is equated to me advertising him at this point. Similar thing happened, sir. I live in a household which are huge fans of Kangana Ranaut as a performer. I have spoken to sir actors in the industry who say that she's a powerhouse of an actor, but they find it extremely suspicious about what her intentions are regarding the multiple interviews that she's doing. So the moment I praise her for starting a conversation about nepotism and its problems, the fact that you advertise or even appreciate her effort in bringing out the conversation, you get equated to all her sort of, I mean, let's face it, like nasty comments on other people, you know, because you advertised them. You said that they did a great job. Have you ever faced this sort of, I'm always in a dilemma of sorts. The moment you advertise someone as a great actor, I can't guarantee that they're going to do great movies ahead. I'm talking about what happened specifically now.
True. I'll give you two examples. And I'm assuring you right before, even if I give you the two examples, that this is not a workable formula in today's India. Because the workable formula is, for example, and that's why I hate people when they say that we are fans of Deshbhakt. I said that's the problem. Because once you're a fan, then you can't criticize. The whole point of a fan is that, boss, I love you, I adore you, I worship you, and I will not criticize you. I'll give you two examples. Anupam Kher, I have said it on Twitter loudly to him that I am your biggest appreciator. I love your acting. At the same time, I have mercilessly trolled him. I'm using the word trolled him. I've trolled him because he was one of the early adopters in Bollywood as far as the political change is concerned, and a lot of lies and misdirection that was concerned. I adore Anupam Kher as an actor. I detest, abhor him as a political person. Very clear. For me, the distinction is clear. Maybe it is not clear for him, maybe not for his fans, but you have to be very clear in your mind. The other example I'll give you, Arvind Kejriwal. Arvind Kejriwal has always been an outlier in politics. He was the underdog. He came in. And I, as a satirist, will always like or be a little nice, because we mock everybody, but we would mock the outliers a little less.
Yeah.
We'll mock people in power a little bit more. So now I did an episode where I talked about the Arvind Kejriwal as being the ultimate U-turner, and people said, but you interviewed him. You were nice to him. So I said, so now he's the chief minister. I will now change my opinion about him. I will look at his performance. What? Because I've interviewed him once, I will never be harsh about him. So unfortunately, people don't understand this, but you and I, it is our job maybe to try and get it across to people that complimenting is not complimenting for life. Supporting on one issue doesn't mean that I blindly support that other person. Where in our constitution, for example, is it written that you voted for a political party, you will not ask a question for the next 5 years? I just don't understand. We never grew up like that. The fact that you care for somebody, you will ask questions. If you care for Bollywood, if you care this industry grows, then you will say, dude, what shit are you doing? Just like you would care for your parents and your children. What, you ask questions to your children, that means you don't love your children. It's the same thing. You love your children when they do something good. You will, okay, I'm not hitting them, but you will scold them when they do something bad. I just don't understand. In public life, we don't seem to get it.
Yeah. So I guess that's also the reason why so many celebrities are also hesitant to have an opinion whenever they're asked about politics or whatever their leanings are, because there's such polarization, especially on Twitter. If you see with figures like Shah Rukh Khan and Akshay Kumar and all of these, everything gets associated with what presumably might be their political affiliation.
So I would like to be charitable to the Bollywood stars. And I know that there is a lot of trolling. I agree with that. But listen, you are sitting at a time when the industry is being abused day in and day out. You've studied movies, you know the Bollywood history. Tell me any point in history where Bollywood was dragged onto the streets in this manner, abused day in and day out. And that is why you see all these production houses finally coming together. Had they shown this unity earlier, had they shown this lack of ego, sitting on top of their penthouses, not being able to read the tea leaves, what is happening? I am not saying have an opinion on everything that is going on. Okay, nobody's asking you to be Hollywood. Okay, agreed. Keeping my opinion a little less, keeping my expectations a little less. When it is about your industry, when it is about your brethren, when it is about you guys, at least unite then, which now they have. But it's a little late in the day, but chalo, one hopes.
So also, I realized that, nobody can anticipate the cascading effect that will follow. I
Hmm.
never assumed that Arnab will eventually be shouting Salman's name. I never assumed that, there would be such uproar. And sir, do you think it's also because it's been, I think I was reading an article on how it's been after 15 years or so that somebody is actually topped the ratings of TRP in Hindi news channels where
Hmm.
Republics come, and so it's sort of fueled the fire?
So, of course, this is a completely different story of what is happening to TRP. But I am assuming, so the game is, just to very quickly make
Yeah.
you understand, say 45,000 TRP boxes all over India, right?
Yeah.
No, those 45,000 boxes are not meant for news. The tragedy is that those 45,000 boxes are meant for sports, Saas Bahu serials. That's where the real money flows into entertainment.
I'll link your video explaining it also. Yeah.
Explaining the TRP
Yeah.
scam. So 45,000 boxes are tracking all of this, out of which apparently 8,000 boxes track Hindi news channels. They are the ones that are tracking the Hindi news channel homes. Okay, 8,000, not very good. Overall population, 20 crore households into 4 per family, 80 crore viewers. 20 crore households, 80 crore viewers. How many boxes? 45,000. How many measuring news out of that? 8,000. Further tragedy, how many measuring English news out of that? Not even 500. The real figures could be in single digits or double digits, by the way. Now, if you have so less boxes, what you can do is, you know where these boxes are. People go there, install it,
Yeah.
maintain it. Paisa khala ke, you can get to know kahan boxes lage. Not bark,
Mm-hmm.
but from ground level people.
Mm.
Jugadu nation. We are a Jugadu nation, remember.
Yeah.
Now, if you tell a household, and this has happened, Pranay Roy wrote about it years ago. I go to this house, I give them an LED TV. Guys, watch your LED TV, na? You watch whatever you want to watch. Free mein. And I'll give you money. This box that you have, जिस पे TRP box लगा हुआ है, इस पे इस channel को इतनी देर, इस channel को इतनी देर, इस channel को इतनी देर लगा के छोड़ दो. This is happening. I can say it out loud. I do not have any problem. I will never say anything that I can't back with facts and published material. Okay, this is happening. And that is why Bark has stopped publishing news TRP for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Next 3 months, no news TRP. So they also know the system is flawed. Even in this flawed system, Aaj Tak always used to come first. So obviously, I'm not saying the entire thing is fraud. People
Yeah.
were watching, and Republic beat Aaj Tak. I have been in the media industry for 10 years. If a channel used to come close to Aaj Tak also, na, for a week, they used to throw parties. There have been rare instances in 10 years, maybe 1 or 2 week here and there, one channel has gone up, but it's come down. On a consistent basis, Aaj Tak being dethroned on TRP has never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it may be fraud, but I don't believe all of it is fraud. People were watching Republic. People were enthralled. People were engaged. And people were obsessed with this story. And they were watching.
Even though it wasn't what it initially started with.
But Bhakt Banerjee can come here and challenge you right now that how can you say it is
How dare
suicide?
you?
Okay?
How dare you?
How dare you say? How dare you say?
So, lastly, I really wanted to ask you. So, what I take away from just imbibing news in general, even if it's regarding the film industry and whoever they want to target at that point of time, I wanted to know, sir, were you a part of the time when with whatever's trending on Twitter sometimes now equates to what would be primetime news that day?
So I left the news industry in 2012, but I can tell you that the trend of Twitter influencing news had started by then.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, in 2012, people were taking stock of what is trending. क्योंकि ट्विटर में न्यूज ट्रेंड्स काफी होता है. Even now, news dominates a lot of conversation on Twitter. And up to people have understood how trends can be manufactured, etc., etc. But at that point of time, it was taken very seriously, boss. This is what people are talking about. So imagine how old this problem is, how widespread this problem is, and especially for English channels, though Twitter, these are our sort of people. These are premium people. These are the ones. Nobody at that point of time knew about trolls and farms and manufacturing trends artificially. And we had started getting into this vicious loop of social media influencing mainstream media, influencing social media, influencing public opinion. And that is why you see public opinion has got so divided now, is because you really did not have to directly manipulate all of mainstream media. Manipulate the trends, you manipulate the media, unfortunately.
Wow. So finally, I would just last piece of advice that you would have for anyone, especially Tried and Refused Productions, in terms of consuming content and being responsible to cover all fields whenever they're imbibing news. What would be your advice to be a responsible citizen while you're taking news?
So first and foremost, let me tell you, your future and the Deshbhakt's future is entwined. You will say, what? How? You will, and I unfortunately will never become 10 million subscribers wala channel.
Mhm.
1 million, theek hai. After 1 million, I have left hope. You know why? Because there is a realization. The kind of stuff you do, the kind of stuff that I do, will never get us the mass appeal that a sensational, a false, a salacious story will get. So you will never be able to get all the stars on your show. Maybe a few good ones who are able to take a lot of criticism, but you will not get the A graders who have you've whipped them, you've ripped them. All factual, by the way. They can't say that you lied or you took money. They were factual points. In the same way, satire is something which whips people, which criticizes people, all based on data. So I'm not going to get big politicians come onto the channel and give interviews or be widely accepted. But what I've discovered as a beauty of the online medium is, even if your aspirations are not that hungry and if you're not so lustful for money, I think you can run a small operation with a small team. You can be crowdfunded. You can have some very good quality sponsors who like quality content, and you can drive this machine on your own. So my advice to Tried and Refused Productions would be, you have really set a benchmark. It's a very high benchmark. It's a niche benchmark. It is not a Janta channel. I just hope you maintain it. Maybe if you can get some Hindi stuff into it, try that. Hindi, we launched as an English channel.
Yeah.
So the first feedback that we got was,
Hindi mein
listen,
baat kar.
you want to criticize people, kar de. तो हिंदी में पहले बात कर. So thankfully I'm from UP, so I knew how to talk in Hindi. My fluency with English is still very much there. I was an English news anchor for 10 years, but we switched to Hindi. But besides that, your content is classy, and YouTube always values classy content, is because people will come back to your content year after year after year. Some of my old videos keep coming up all the time.
Yeah.
So keep doing the great work. Don't get swayed by numbers. It doesn't mean anything. As long as you can sustain yourself, go for it. If it makes you happy, go for it.
Thank you so much, sir. That means a lot to me, especially because I respect you so much, sir. Sir, last thing I just wanted to ask you, sir, traditional media, consuming it, what would be your advice for any citizen who's consuming traditional media with whatever there is? How can they be responsible in covering all tracks?
My sympathies for them who are still consuming traditional media after all of this. Listen, digital media is not that hard to consume. Yeah. YouTube channels are the easiest to consume.
It's free.
There are a lot of good web publications that are doing good journalism. I refuse to believe that good journalism is dead. Good critique channels are very much alive. Satire channels are very much there. And there are more and more web-based magazines that are coming up. You know, the problem is that you have to make that effort of going and searching for a channel, spending that little bit time to subscribe and ensure that you watch that channel in particular, while television is like, let me open and then browse for a minute. And you've browsed for that 1 minute is giving that TRP to those channels. And we are thinking, we are having a good time. Yeah, what stupidity is going on? Without realizing, boss, you are watching the stupidity. You are giving the TRP. So don't watch the stupidity. Watch better things. I'm not asking for a boycott. Yeah. And I hate this whole boycott business. Don't boycott, just watch good stuff.
Every day there's a new trend.
Every day there's a new trend. I'm saying, no, so some people say boycott news channels. They say, don't boycott, just watch good stuff. Just watch good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for taking out the time. Means a lot to me. And hopefully, sir, we could speak in the future ahead as well.
Absolutely. And you keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, bye.
Okay, sir.